Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's start out with the court. Ready? Here we go. Let me see counsel at the side. Who called this meeting? Well, I think what I mentioned to the court is I understand the subject of a video on the cell phone. It's a 4-minute long video of Tamerlan Tsarnaev's voice in the park with his daughter, sort of repeatedly saying Allah Akbar and getting her to repeat it over and over again. We wanted to publish that very short video, and the government, as I understand it, objects. It's 4 minutes something long, and it just seems so removed from what the issues are. I mean, domination. It could hardly be characterized as domination. Do you quarrel with the characterization of what the film shows? No, it does say, but the issue is, I assume we're not playing the whole 4 minutes, but a 30-second clip. It's only 4 minutes, only 4 minutes. I mean, in the grand scheme, I'll play a bit. I'll let you do it. If I think you're overdoing it, I'll stop. Thank you, Your Honor. I have another matter I would like to put on the record. We had some discussions with the defense over the lunch hour with respect to the foreign witnesses who are here. It has to do with the timing of when they're going to testify. It's currently the intention of the FBI to return the foreign witnesses to Russia on Friday, meaning that they need to testify this week. At that point, they will have been in the country for a week. The FBI is devoting 16 personnel full-time to taking care of them, both guarding them as well as protecting them from the press and from others. It's an enormous expense and distraction for the agency, and that's just part of the expense that the government has endured. There is ample time between now and the end of Thursday to get all of them on and off the stand, but the defense keeps insisting that they are not sure they are going to be able to get them on the stand by Thursday, and they may need to keep them all the way until the following Monday, which would be an additional 4 days, simply for the convenience of putting off some other witnesses, like those who are reading 302s and other kinds of lengthy witnesses. So I just want the record to reflect that it is still our intention that they are all going back to Russia on Friday, whether they have testified or not, and the defense can make their decision about whether they want to call them between now and then or not. The issue is, well, first of all, I would say we do have every intention of calling these witnesses on Thursday. The issue, though, in terms of timing, is not just one of sort of convenience, and we're not sort of recklessly putting on some other witness in advance to delay them, but rather the conditions under which their presence was permitted and the conditions under which we're able to interact with them makes it extremely difficult to do the preparation work and time-consuming. So there's a concern about whether we can be ready on Thursday, but we're certainly making efforts to do so. Okay, witness handling is always an issue in cases, and it's routinely resolved, and I would expect this will be resolved. So what can you tell me what the gross time would be for the witness's testimony? I mean, it's still very much a work in progress. I think we can certainly get them all on and off in under a day. That's too gross. Well, let me think. There are 5 of them. It kind of depends on the length of the cross, and I suspect each witness's direct is probably in the neighborhood of a half hour. And how many are there? 5. Okay. Well, let's see how things develop, but I don't think the government's request is an unreasonable one as I heard it. I understand. Thank you, Your Honor. If I could get the screen back just for the witness again for a moment, please. Good afternoon again, Mr. Grant. Good afternoon, sir. We just introduced 4 of your reports about Tamerlan's HTC phone, the 1B1, and there was one more that I neglected to introduce. I'm going to show you another report on the screen and just ask if you recognize what this one is. Yes, this is an extraction report of what's considered the internet history or the web history of the device. So in other words, as a smartphone, it can surf the internet and it retains certain information about websites that are visited. Yes, sir. And this is also extracted with the tool that you use to create the other reports. Yes, the Cellebrite UFED system. Your Honor, I would ask to admit and publish this as 3317-1-5. No objection. Okay, it's admitted and published. And so on the screen, sorry, I'm going to pull out a different section. The sort of last bits of internet history on the phone are depicted on the screen here. Yes, sir. And it's a number of web pages referencing articles, including, among other things, the marathon bombings. Yes, sir. And then finally, did you have occasion to extract a video file that was on this phone? Yes, it actually was a report that included all video files from the device. Well, there was a report about video files, but then one particular file itself we extracted, or you extracted, and it's an exhibit marked 3317-1-6. Do you recall that? Yes. So was that a video that was actually taken from the phone itself? Yes, sir. Your Honor, I would ask then permission to introduce and publish that exhibit as well. All right. We resolved that in our discussion. That will be admitted. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further. Mr. Chakra. Good afternoon again, Mr. Grant. Good afternoon. I just have a few things. That phone from which you extracted this video from, that was Tamerlane's phone found on Laurel Street in Waterton. I'm not sure what the location is. I was just basing it off of the 1B1 actual folder. Okay, and you were able to extract that phone and all that other data that Mr. Fick showed you from that phone. Yes, I was provided a physical extraction or physical copy of the device's memory, and it was processed. Yes, sir. That includes the internet history, and that includes the call logs as well as the contacts on the phone. Yes, sir. And you weren't able to extract any of that data from the defendant's phone, right? I didn't. Objection. There's no evidence he was ever asked to do it. Sustained. Scope. The number of calls that you had from the call log of Tamerlane's phone showed that there were actually hundreds of calls that Tamerlane's phone had. Objection to scope. Is that right? Overruled. Yes, sir. If I could see the exhibit, if we could call up 3317-1-2. Do you recognize this? Yes, sir. And I'm sorry, this isn't in evidence yet, so it shows 851 calls, right? Yes, sir. And of those 851 calls, very few of them, in fact, less than 45, were with numbers that were used by the defendant, right? I did not go into that type of analysis. All I did was extracted the actual messages or the call logs themselves and did not do any detailed analysis on them. So you didn't count how many calls that he actually had with the defendant? No, sir. Did you do any analysis to find out who he called? No, sir. So did you know that, for example, this phone number, that was the number 2, that was the phone number that the defendant used on the T-Mobile phone that he activated just before the bombing? Objection. Overruled. You may answer it. I recognize the number from other work I'd done. Yes. In fact, some of it you testified to last time you were here, right? Yes, sir. So you know that was the phone number, that was the defendant's number, that he activated a T-Mobile phone just before the marathon bombing? I believe so. Yes, sir. And so you didn't do any further analysis about when he called the defendant? No, sir. And when the defendant called him? No, sir. you would agree with me that it was actually a very small proportion of the 851 calls that were with the defendant. I can't agree unless I actually did it, so unfortunately, no, I cannot agree. With regards to the YouTube videos that you showed, that you described for Tamerlane's YouTube account, you would agree with me that there were some religious videos on that YouTube account, right? I believe they're religious. I know there were a lot of them that were in a different language and others where people were lecturing, and that language was Russian, right? I believe so, yes sir. Okay, and you also downloaded some of those videos and provided them to the government as potential exhibits, right? Yes sir, and some of those videos were actually dance videos. Is that fair to say? I don't recall. I believe so. There may have been a couple of dance ones. I don't recall off the top of my... Do you recall a dance remix video from 2012? It sounds familiar. I can't state yes or no on that. The YouTube site that you showed us had also indicated that some of the videos had actually been followed by people, by many people, and there's actually a number on the YouTube site that shows how many people followed it, right? Yes, there is. All right, that will conclude our Q&A practice.